good gear for making videos has never been more accessible. And with that in mind, it's always a bright idea to focus on leveling up your lighting. My name is Tom, this is the Enthusiasm Project, and today we are going to talk about these guys right here, the NanLite PavoTube II 6C, so you can see how sick these lights are. This is not a sponsored video, but you might remember a few weeks ago I did a review on the Aputure MC, and the reason I bring that up is because these are kind of similar in price. These two are separate lights, but each light individually costs about $100. The Aputure MC costs about $90, so they are roughly in the same price range. This isn't a direct comparison video. In fact, I would highly recommend, if possible, or better yet, when possible, that you do this right here and get both of them, because they have different purposes, they work differently, and you can kind of never have too many really great little lights. Right now this is on continuous lighting mode at 5600 Kelvin, but I can easily, with the push of a button, switch it to be colored. And of course we've even got all these effects here. You might have noticed the effect of these lights in some of my more recent videos because I've been using them a lot. So we're gonna dive into these today because I haven't used a NanLite before. I kind of stick with my normal brands, but I got these based on the fact that Peter Lindgren uses them on his channel and he gets amazing results with these lights. He's got the big old tubes. Those are the ones I originally wanted. But now I'm so used to seeing the great quality of these PavoTubes in his videos that I'm conditioned to just associate them with great lighting. In fact, you might call it a Pavlovian response. Ugh. I should say too that these can sometimes be hard to find. They seem to be going in and out of stock pretty frequently. I'll put links down below. If they're not in stock anywhere, I did order mine directly from NanLite and they arrived in about 4 days. So that worked for me if you can't find them at any of your usual stores. So before we talk about features and performance, let's talk about what you get for your $100. In the box, you get the light itself. And yes, I put my lights away to put them in the box so I could take them out of the box right now. The light comes in this little pouch, which I actually did want to bring up because if you've purchased video lights before, you know that a lot of them come in these little cases. Case in point, this is another light that I recently got. It's a tiny little light that came in this really, nice case that I'll probably never use again, and I don't know what to do with these, and they just sort of pile up, but I don't want to just throw them out because it feels wasteful. But if I'm gonna travel with the light, unless it's a really big or really delicate light, I'm probably not gonna use that. Whereas these lights are small enough that you would wanna travel with them, but you do wanna protect them, even though they're durable. I wouldn't wanna just throw it into my bag like this, put the light in the pouch and then put this in your bag or whatever, and it's going to be protected and it's not going to take up very much space. You also get a USB-C power cable, which is how you charge the light, and you can also run the light off of an external battery pack or even wall power plugged in for unlimited light usage. You get this little strap, which is kind of neat because it's pretty durable and it has a 1/4 20 screw on the bottom, which goes right into the light itself and then gives you more options for hanging the light and positioning it in more places because now it has a strap. And you also get these little metal plates. The reason for that is because the back of the lights have magnets built into each end. But what NanLite suggests you do in the instructions, use some gaff tape, tape these to a surface, and then you've got, well, my skin is too smooth, but otherwise you would be able to stick these to a wall or a surface that's not magnetic and make it magnetic for your lights. There are also 1/4 20 mounts on either side of the light, so you can put it on a C-stand, a lighting stand, a tripod. There's really no shortage of versatility in terms of being able to mount this light. So for the price, you get a pretty decent setup. The lights themselves are pretty durable. They're made out of heavy-duty plastics and metal, so they feel really solid. There's a control panel on the rear of the light that has a mode button, a switch button, plus and minus buttons, the power button, and the USB-C charging port. Even without reading the instructions, it was pretty easy to figure out how to use these lights. It's super intuitive. To turn it on though, I've seen a couple people mention this. If you just press the power button, you'll see the logo start to go on, but the light won't turn on. You have to hold this down until the logo gets larger, and then the light is on and shining in my face. And to turn it off, you just hold it down until the light turns off. Otherwise, operation is pretty simple. The mode button lets you switch between CCT, HSI, which is hue, saturation, and intensity. That lets you decide which color you want to use. Effect, and we have different effects. If you want to change any settings, you just press switch and then use plus and minus. With continuous lighting, you can go all the way from 2700 degrees Kelvin, which is very warm lighting, all the way to 7500, which is very cool white daylight. I keep mine at 5600 most of the time. On the back, there's also a little display that shows your battery charge level and the estimated remaining battery life. Right here, right now, I've only got this light set to 5% brightness. So it says it's gonna last for 8.5 hours. Obviously that changes if you increase the brightness. If I go all the way to 100%, which these are really bright lights, I turn off my key light in this room. Here's 100% brightness of this light. It's relatively soft. They work great as hair lights and backlights. This is pretty well diffused. It gives nice soft lighting. It's not quite as diffused as the Aputure MC because it has this specialized diffuser, which I think gives a softer quality of light, but these are pretty darn good and they are super bright. Officially, it says that they will run for 65 minutes at full power. You'd probably very rarely keep these at full power because it's so bright. That's gonna change depending on how you're using it. I have found this rating to be pretty conservative, so if it tells me it's gonna give me an hour of lighting, I'll usually get a little bit more than an hour, but I wouldn't use that as a law. I think it's just a good guideline to go by. I love that feature though, because it really tells you sometimes if you're like, I just need to film for 20 more minutes and it says that you have, 0.5 hours left, you're like, I can probably pull that off. And then you do, and it's great. And at full brightness, these are rated at 520 lumens with a CRI of 95, which basically means they're super bright and the color reproduction is pretty dang good, so you shouldn't get any weird color casts or color shifts when you're using these lights, unless you want to because you're setting them to some of those colors. There's no app like there is with the Aputure MC. The app is really fun to use with these, but using apps is always inherently clunky to a certain extent, and so I like how easy it is to just use this light by itself without having to do anything else, and it just works. I really love the controls on these lights. And in the effect mode, we've got a hue loop. I can change the brightness and the speed and the intensity. And you can also select which hues, if you want to do the whole rainbow or if you just want to do a little bit of the spectrum. We can also do a CCT loop, so kind of the same thing, except instead of all the colors, we're just going from warm to daylight. We can do one that's intensity, so it goes from dim to bright. And then there are a lot of other options, a lot of other effects, fireworks, explosion, TV, police car, party lights, all this cool thing, paparazzi, but they are, again, just like the MC, kind of based on flashing lights, and they look great. I'm super sensitive to flashing lights, so I don't want to test them here because it will ruin my day. So the reason I originally wanted to get these was to replace these accent lights over here, these ones right here. I've had these forever. They're relatively inexpensive lights that I found on Amazon. They're just sort of RGB floodlights. They're great for ambiance, but they kind of suck for video because they flicker a lot, and so depending on my shutter speed and my frame rate, I can deal with flickering from these lights sometimes, and it can be very annoying, and you might have even noticed it in some of my videos. A big reason to invest in a dedicated video light is that it won't give you flickering at any frame rates or shutter speeds. At least decent lights won't, and you don't have to deal with that issue at all. That is a very, very big deal because when you film something and it looks great and it sounds great and then you go to edit it and you realize that there's a flicker that you didn't see with your naked eye or you didn't even see in the camera, that's a really big bummer. So using dedicated video lights completely eliminates that problem for the most part. What I was hoping is that these are gonna be bright enough to act as accent lights over here, which they are. And if I turn this on right here, let's put this at kind of a blue. If I turn this light off, and now the NanLite does work as an accent light, but it's just not quite as bright, these smaller ones, as I wanted them to be. It looks great. I just really love super bright, high key lighting, which makes everything look ultra just bright and vibrant. And these aren't quite bright enough for the reason I bought them, but that's okay. The fact that these didn't work the way that I wanted them to means that I'm actually using them a lot more because now they are just constantly available, and when I'm doing photography and B-roll and whatever, I just put these everywhere, and mix and match them, and I actually really love having 2 of them. So maybe one day I'll get the giant 4-foot tubes. Those would be more than bright enough to do accent lights and then not have to deal with flickering, because I've actually enjoyed filming some of my videos at 30 frames per second. But I've been getting flickering with these cheap RGB lights. In the end, I think it is absolutely worth to invest in these lights. I've been really impressed with them. I think the tricky part is if you're searching for lights, especially tube lights like these, which have been really popular lately, it's easy to just go on a site like Amazon, search for video tube light or RGB tube light, sort price lowest to highest, and just get the cheapest option. But considering that these are $100 each, not for both, I think that is really worth it. Same with the Aputure MC, which is $90. That's a pretty affordable price, and it's gonna get you something that's gonna work really well and last a really, really long time. I can't speak for all of the lights in the world, but I can speak for at least these ones right here, that when it comes to brightness, color reproduction, durability, ease of use, these are absolutely excellent, and I've really been enjoying using them. In fact, I'm so glad I have 2 of them. If you can responsibly fit it into your budget, I would recommend getting 2 because it's really helpful. And then you too can have 2 tube lights for YouTube.